are discussing Carolyn Kizer, and the excerpt of hers that we read for class is from Pro Femina number 3. So it's an excerpt from her larger work called Pro Femina, which literally means for the woman, appropriately titled for our class on women in literature. And of course, Carolyn Kizer is a later 20th century author. If you look in the written out lecture, there is a lovely photo of Carolyn Kizer. I would say this looks like an older photo of her, so maybe taken in the 1970s, perhaps 1980s. And if you look in the written out lecture, there are also several websites and links that you could go to for more information if you'd like about Carolyn Kizer and her poetry. So, you can see a YouTube video, for instance, about Carolyn Kizer reading her own poetry. There is an audio version that discusses NPR's top 15 20th century American poems. One of the judges is Carolyn Kizer. And there is an NPR Fresh Air interview in which Laura Linney discusses Carolyn Kizer. All right, Carolyn Kizer was born in Spokane, Washington. She's American. She was born in 1925 and died at the age of 88 in 2014. Carolyn graduated from the prestigious All-Women's College of St. Lawrence in 1945, where she studied comparative mythologies with the famed literary critic and professor Joseph Campbell. You may know Joseph Campbell from such things as like the hero journey that people talked about, a lot with like Star Wars as a modern hero's journey that has become popular. Anyway, Joseph Campbell's a very interesting, distinguished thinker, and she studied with him, after which she attended graduate school at Columbia University and also the University of Washington. She traveled widely in Asia and learned several languages. Her translations of Chinese works taught her, quote-unquote, terse urbanity. Urbanity means wit. So she can be witty, yet terse, like not use a lot of words is what that means, but still witty, which she implemented in her own writing. Be terse, to the point, few words, but still witty and clever. Carolyn married and had 3 children, and later divorced and remarried again. From her experience as woman, mother, and wife, she became sensitized to the roles and chores of the domestic life and calls herself a premature feminist, quote-unquote, premature feminist. Kind of an interesting name. I've never heard that before. I mean, I guess I have, because I wrote it in lecture, and it's from the anthology. But I really hadn't thought about it before I encountered that concept in the anthology. So I thought that was interesting. So premature feminist, meaning she's certainly a feminist, but kind of before maybe the rest of the world, or at least the rest of the country, really became more widespreadly feminist. Okay. Carolyn also became very much interested in the quote-unquote surrogates of gifted men, the mothers, wives, daughters, etc., who have supported the literary efforts of acclaimed writers, much as Virginia Woolf also discusses in A Room of One's Own. You remember that from our very first week. We studied A Room of One's Own, the essay, the very famous long essay by Virginia Woolf, although we read an excerpt of it. These concerns about how women are the people behind, the men who tend to earn the notoriety and the acclaim by the outside world, but they tend to have a mother, a wife, a daughter, people like that behind them, supporting them, making their efforts possible. So these concerns manifest themselves in the Carolyn Kizer poem that we read for class this week. The excerpt from her series of poems comprising Pro Femina, which was published in 2000 and literally translates, as I said earlier, for the woman. Appropriate for our class on women in literature. Carolyn taught writing at numerous universities, including Columbia, Stanford, Princeton, San Jose State University, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and won the Pulitzer Prize in 1985 for her poem Yin. So she won the Pulitzer Prize in poetry. There are, now that we're in the modern times and they're starting to give out poetry, Pulitzer Prizes in poetry, a number of our women have won those, if you've noticed. Gwendolyn Brooks, and you'll encounter a few more too, but here we have Carolyn Kizer winning it in 1985 for a poem called Yin, Y-I-N, like yin and yang, but this is yin. She also served as a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. So another really interesting claim to fame there. Of course, interestingly, if you notice, the title of her poem, Yin, all right, that she won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry in 1985, that is literally the Chinese term for the female or feminine principle. So again, goes dovetails with Pro Femina, which means for the woman, and then also combines her love of the Chinese language. Of course, she was translating. She learned Chinese, was translating poems from Chinese into English, and learned their terms of vanity. So it kind of pulls all of those things together in this poem Yin. But we're reading Pro Femina, the excerpt from it for class this week. So enjoy reading more about Carolyn Kizer and the actual poem of hers that we read this class, the excerpt from Pro Femina 3. All right, thanks.